Why does America, the land of the free, incarcerate more people than any other country? And why are so many of them black men? It's a question that's hard to ignore when you consider the numbers. Despite making up only about 13% of the American population, black men account for nearly 40% of the prison population. That's a disparity that's not only staggering but deeply unsettling. This tells us that black men in America are incarcerated at a rate 5 times higher than their white counterparts. It's a reality that's hard to swallow, especially when you consider the fact that people of all races and nationalities commit crimes at roughly the same rates. This isn't just an American problem, it's a global issue. In the United Kingdom, for example, black men are 4 times more likely to be in prison than white men, so the question we must ask ourselves is, why is this happening? To understand the present, we must first understand the past. Let's take a journey back in time to an era stained with one of humanity's darkest chapters, slavery. This was a time when the very concept of freedom was an alien notion for millions of black men, women, and children in America. More than just a physical bondage, slavery sought to shackle the human spirit, reduce people to property, and establish an economic system built on the exploitation of human life. Then came the Emancipation Proclamation, a beacon of hope promising freedom. But the end of slavery did not mark the end of oppression. The post-slavery era saw the rise of Jim Crow laws, a system of state and local statutes enforcing racial segregation in the southern United States. These laws were designed to maintain racial hierarchy, with separate but equal facilities for blacks and whites. But let's be clear, there was nothing equal about it. Schools, hospitals, transportation, every facet of life was touched by this poisonous doctrine, ensuring black Americans were always at a disadvantage. The Jim Crow era, though officially ended in the mid-20th century, left a deep-rooted impact on the socio-economic fabric of the black community. Denied equal access to education, jobs, and resources, black Americans were pushed to the margins of society, creating a cycle of poverty that's been challenging to break. Inequities in housing, education, employment, and wealth accumulation all trace their roots back to these laws, forming a systemic barrier that continues to impact black Americans to this day. This is not just history, it's the context to our present. The echoes of slavery and Jim Crow laws are still heard in our society, influencing perceptions, shaping biases, and manifesting in the form of systemic racism. While the chains of slavery are gone, its shadows still linger in our society. It's crucial we acknowledge this, as understanding our past is the first step towards creating a more equitable future. The past shapes the present, and in this case, it has influenced our laws and societal attitudes. Let's dive into the murky waters of modern laws. Policies like the war on drugs and 3 strikes laws have had a significant and disproportionate impact on black men. The war on drugs, initiated in the 70s, was aimed at eradicating drug use. However, it has often been criticized for targeting lower-income communities and racial minorities, particularly black men. The 3 strikes laws, enacted in the 90s, mandate life sentences for individuals convicted of a severe violent felony and 2 other previous convictions. These laws have been questioned for their fairness, as they don't consider the severity of the 2 previous convictions. Consequently, nonviolent offenses can lead to lifelong imprisonment, disproportionately affecting black men. But it's not just these laws. The systemic racism embedded in our policing and sentencing practices plays a significant role. Racial profiling, for instance, is a widespread issue. It's a practice where law enforcement uses an individual's race or ethnicity as a factor in their suspicion. This unjust practice has led to the over-policing of black communities, increasing the likelihood of black men encountering the criminal justice system. Once in the system, it doesn't get any better. Studies have shown that black men receive longer sentences compared to their white counterparts for the same crimes. This sentencing disparity highlights the systemic racism ingrained in our criminal justice system. The criminal justice system isn't just about punishment. It's also about rehabilitation and reintegration into society. However, with these biased laws and practices, the system seems more focused on punishment rather than rehabilitation, especially for black men. So what we're seeing isn't just a few isolated incidents or bad apples. It's a pattern, a systemic issue that goes beyond individual bigotry or prejudice. It's a part of our institutions, our laws, and our societal attitudes. It's clear that our criminal justice system is not as just as we might believe. But it's not just about the laws. Economic disparity and education play a significant role too. Let's take a step back and look at the broader picture. Economic disparity is a well-documented issue in the United States, with vast divides between the haves and the have-nots. When we examine these disparities, we find that they are often deeply entrenched within racial lines, with Black communities disproportionately affected. This economic inequality is not just about numbers on a paycheck. It is about access to resources, opportunities, and, crucially, education. Education serves as the cornerstone for individual growth and societal progress. However, when access to quality education is restricted due to economic disparity, the ripple effects are profound. In many Black communities, underfunded schools and lack of resources create a cycle of limited educational opportunities. This lack of quality education can lead to fewer job opportunities and lower income, which in turn feeds back into the cycle of poverty. On the other hand, poverty and lack of education are often correlated with higher crime rates. It's a tragic irony, but when the doors of opportunity are bolted shut, some feel they have no other option but to resort to crime. Could this be a contributing factor to why so many Black men are in prison? Let's be clear. This is not about blaming individuals or communities for their circumstances. It's about recognizing how systemic issues like economic disparity and lack of educational opportunities can influence choices and outcomes. It's also about understanding that these issues are not just Black problems. They are American problems. They affect us all, directly or indirectly. They shape our society, our values, and our future. So, if we are to address the high incarceration rates of Black men, we need to look beyond the prison walls. We must acknowledge and address the deeper systemic issues at play, such as economic disparity and lack of education. If we want to address the problem, we must address its root causes. This issue has profound consequences, not just for those in prison, but for our society as a whole. The ripples of mass incarceration extend far beyond the prison walls. Families are torn apart. As children grow up without their fathers, mothers struggle to raise families single-handedly, and grandparents are burdened with care responsibilities. The emotional, psychological, and financial strain can be overwhelming, creating a cycle of poverty and instability that's hard to break free from. Communities, particularly those of color, are hit hard too. With so many members locked away, these communities lose valuable contributors to their economies, their social fabric, and their collective potential. There's an absence of role models for the younger generation, a void that's often filled with negative influences. The social cohesion, the sense of belonging, the shared vision for a better future, they all suffer. And then there's the broader societal impact. Mass incarceration fuels inequality, perpetuates poverty, and undermines our democracy. It wastes human potential on an epic scale, and it costs us billions of dollars every year. That's money that could be better spent on education, healthcare, and initiatives that uplift communities rather than tearing them apart. But there's a way forward. Reform in the criminal justice system is long overdue. We need to rethink our approach to crime and punishment, focusing more on rehabilitation than retribution. We need to address the systemic racism that's so deeply ingrained in our legal system, and we need to tackle the economic and educational disparities that feed into the cycle of crime and incarceration. Education is a powerful tool for change. It's a ladder out of poverty, a pathway to better opportunities, and a means to break the cycle of crime and punishment. Similarly, economic policies that promote equality and fairness can help level the playing field, giving everyone a fair shot at prosperity. It's a complex and daunting challenge, no doubt, but with commitment, courage, and collective action, it's a challenge we can meet. It's time to break the cycle and create a more equitable society. Change begins with awareness, but it doesn't end there. It continues with education, conversation, and active participation. It's crucial to delve deeper, to dig into the books, documentaries, and research papers that shed more light on this issue. It's about asking the hard questions and not shying away from uncomfortable truths. But knowledge is only half the battle. The next step is to talk about it. Start conversations with your friends, family, neighbors, and coworkers. Discuss the facts, the disparities, the systemic injustices. Remember, silence perpetuates the status quo. Then comes the most important part: action. Get involved. Support organizations working towards prison reform. Advocate for policies that promote equality and justice. Use your vote wisely. Together, we can create a better, more just world. The first step is understanding why so many Black men are in prison, and the next step is doing something about it.